Now, the word Grail watch gets thrown around in the watch industry a lot, especially by watch enthusiasts and watch collectors, and I think that the term has really been misrepresented. So today, I wanted to talk about Grail watches and go over what are my top 5 Grail watches I would love to own someday. So let's get right into it. So as I mentioned, I feel like the word Grail watch is really overused and oversaturated in the watch industry today. I feel like so many people refer to watches that they lust after or want to add to their collection as their quote-unquote Grail watch. And I think that's kind of a misrepresentation of what a Grail watch should be. Really, a Grail watch should be the Holy Grail, right? Something that's completely unobtainable, right? Unless your circumstances change completely, it's something that you may never even achieve in your lifetime. And that's totally okay to lust after something that you can never get. You know, I would love to own a Ford GT, but you know, I first of all don't have the funds, and of course, I don't even like to drive all that much. And when it comes to luxury sports cars, it's not even something that interests me. So for the most part, if I was to even be able to afford something like a Ford GT, maybe I wouldn't even own it to begin with. However, when it comes to watches, I am a huge, passionate fan of watches. I absolutely love them. And so I wanted to go over what I feel are my Grail watches. What I feel are just watches probably I will never be able to buy in my lifetime, but I would love to own, of course, if the opportunity presented itself. Starting first with my absolute #1 Grail, the watch that I want so much, and that is the mb&F Legacy Machine Perpetual Calendar. A watch that I feel is just one of, if not the greatest wristwatches ever made, period. I think it's definitely a top 3 wristwatch all time. It's got a one-of-a-kind movement made by Stephen McDonald, of course, designed by Max Buser. I've talked about this watch many times, but if I was going to choose one in particular as a top 5 Grail, I would actually take the zirconium one made in a limited edition for 15 pieces for friends and family of the mb&F brand, of course with that stunning blue dial. Now, when it comes to the mb&F Legacy Machine Perpetual Calendar, the reason I love it so much is not just because, of course, its mechanics, it being a one-of-a-kind, perpetual calendar movement, but just the depth, the architecture, the finishing, and just the overall presence on wrist. It's unlike anything else that I've ever seen before, and I don't think any watch will ever rival it in terms of just movement, architecture, finishing, and just overall cool factor. It is one of those watches that is just perfectly designed, super functional, and of course has this unique design that is unmistakably mb&F. In terms of market pricing on the mb&F Legacy Machine Perpetual Calendar, it's hard to know or pinpoint really what this watch will sell for, but if I had to estimate, it'll range somewhere in the $200,000 to $300,000 price range in the zirconium model. Now you can actually pick up the mb&F Legacy Machine Perpetual Evo under retail, so they're trading right around the 160 to 170-ish price range, where the retail, I believe, is right around 165-ish Swiss francs, or like 180,000 US dollars. So right around retail, but slightly under, which is awesome. And I think it's just one of the best wristwatches out there. Definitely one you should consider adding to your collection if you haven't already gone an mb&F and you're able to collect at that price level. And so, of course, if I have the opportunity to get it, I would want to get something that has the water resistance, it being, of course, in the Evo variation, in zirconium, made only in 15 pieces with an amazing blue dial. However, of course, beggars can be choosers. If I can't get that, the titanium Evo edition with the green dial is also a phenomenal wristwatch and something I would absolutely love to own one day. So guys, this is definitely my first pick. Let me know what you think of mb&F and the Legacy Machine Perpetual Calendar. I would love to get your thoughts down in the comments. Now, my second wristwatch has to be a wristwatch from FP Journe. And if you're going to get an FP Journe wristwatch, in my opinion, it has to be some kind of tourbillon. I just feel like the tourbillon is not only the watch that actually started the FP Journe brand and of course launched it and allowed it to become what it is today, but I also just feel if you're going to get a watch that is from, I would say, maybe the greatest living watchmaker today, it has to be the one that defines the brand, and I just feel the tourbillon is the one that defines it. The tourbillon from FP Journe that reigns supreme, it is the T10 Tourbillon. It's a limited edition of only 10 pieces made to celebrate the 10th anniversary of opening the FP Journe boutique in Japan, and it features the original pocket watch movement from FP Journe made to fit into a wristwatch. It's just a stunning display of movement, architecture, finishing, and of course the ultimate if you know kind of watch. It's a watch that's time only. You have essentially just your hours and minutes and seconds subdial, super discreet, an amazing tuxedo kind of style. And of course, when you turn that watch over, it just floors everything, right? This is just something that is unlike anything else you can find anywhere in the watch industry in terms of overall tourbillon movements. Now, it's one of the rarest Journes ever made. I've never seen one ever for sale, for example. It's probably something that's hidden in the watch box vault somewhere, or something that will only ever pop up at auction. And if I had to estimate the market price for this, it's going to be well in excess of $2 million if I had to estimate. Just given the strength of the FP Journe brand, just how rare this watch is, and of course, just the overall incredible watchmaking that's involved, I would be shocked if it sold for less than $2 million given all of those factors. So yeah, a crazy, crazy wristwatch, something I would really be blessed to own. And of course, it has to make my top 5 Grail watch. Now, my third watch in my top 5 Grail list had to include a Patek Philippe. Now, I'm sure in many cases, people will go for some crazy vintage Patek like a stainless steel 1518 or, for example, a Grandmaster Chime, which is just ungettable. But for me, I don't really like those watches just because they're not something that I would actually ever wear. In my Grail watch list, I want to have watches that I would actually enjoy if I was able to buy them. And so the next watch I wanted to pick is a 5970G in a particular variation. It is with a salmon dial made in what is known as the Saatchi Limited Edition. Now, the Saatchi Limited Edition, for those who don't know, was essentially an exclusive release of a number of watches and a number of references for the London boutique, which was actually really exclusive and have become some of the most elusive, rare, and collectible Patek Philippe models. Now, the reason that I chose the 5970 Saatchi in particular is not just my love and affinity for Patek Philippe perpetual calendar chronographs, but also just because of that stunning salmon dial. And of course, the 5970 I would consider to be the best modern perpetual calendar chronograph of all time, if not maybe the best ever. I mean, we're talking about a wristwatch that kind of bridges the gap between new style perpetual calendars and old style perpetual calendars in terms of just its overall case shape, which is just so artistic and perfectly made. The dial is so well balanced. Of course, it features the last of the Lemania movements within the actual wristwatch itself. And not to mention, this is the first wristwatch designed by Thierry Söhne by himself, so it's kind of the passing of the torch of Patek Philippe from Henri Söhne, the father, to Thierry Söhne, the son. And so it has so much significance to many Patek collectors out there. Now, from what I've read online, this is a watch that was produced in 2014, and only 5 examples of these wristwatches were ever made. So it's really difficult to pinpoint a current market price for it because, again, it's a wristwatch I've never seen for sale anywhere. Given the incredible exclusivity and I would say pride of ownership for this, I would expect to pay somewhere in the range of $500,000 to $1 million, just given the overall love and respect and admiration Patek Philippe collectors have for the 5970 range, and of course, just given how limited this model is. The 5970G Saatchi edition is just a beautiful wristwatch, and it's something I would absolutely love to own, and definitely one that has to make my top 5 Grail watch list. Okay, next up is one by Vacheron Constantin, another chronograph. It's actually a split-second chronograph, one of the nicest watches I think Vacheron Constantin has ever made. It is a traditional split-second chronograph made in a limited edition of 15 pieces with just an incredible platinum dial. Now, what I like in particular is the beautiful movement architecture of the split-second chronograph that you get to see fully, given the fact that this is also an automatic wristwatch with a peripheral rotor. Now, the movement is the total showstopper of this wristwatch, right? There's no question about it. If I could wear this watch upside down, I would, because there's no doubt about it. It's one of the most stunning movements ever made, beautifully finished and beautifully executed by, of course, Vacheron Constantin. And I think in the traditional case, it's just that perfect kind of silhouette to really wear the wristwatch on a day-to-day basis. Now, of course, this is a very special timepiece, probably not something I'd recommend that you wear on a regular basis, but you could if you would. And when it comes to split-second chronographs, I think this is one of the most beautifully designed and most well-made watches of all time. When this was released a couple years back, it was pre-sold, so it didn't even hit the market and you can purchase it. It was already sold before it was ever even released, picked up by some very, very lucky collectors out there. And I believe the retail price was right around the $288,000, $300-ish price point, where I think probably the market price would be right around the $400,000-ish price point. Again, even if you're able to find one, because it's just a watch that is so hyper limited, you'll probably never see it anywhere in any collector group or really ever posted online. Certainly, I've never seen it myself. Okay, last but certainly not least is going to be one that I've admired from afar for a very, very long time, and it is from Germany, and that is the brand A. Lange & Söhne, and the watch is the Pour le Mérite Tourbillon, one of the most amazing, innovative, and of course, incredible wristwatches that helped launch the brand in 1994. It was a creation really thought of by Gunter Blumlein as one of the original 4 wristwatches. And although the Lange one got all the shine in terms of kind of the long-term success of it being probably the most iconic range of a Lange zone, I feel the Pour le Mérite Tourbillon is that showstopper piece that Lange made in about 200 examples total, I think, between steel, white gold, platinum, and rose gold and yellow gold. And this one in particular that I really like is the reference 701.007, which is one of only 2 examples in white gold with a blue dial. I just feel this is just a spectacular looking wristwatch. Of course, you get that central tourbillon with the white gold case, the blue dial, but of course, the real showstopper is this movement. When this watch was released in 1994, it was essentially 1 year older than the release of the FP Journe Tourbillon Souverain, the original tourbillon wristwatch that FP Journe created. And it was the first one that ever combined the complication of a tourbillon and the constant force mechanism of a chain and fusee. Now, there's a lot of tourbillon chain and fusee wristwatches out there, or just chain and fusee wristwatches out there. For the most part, you have brands like Romain Gaultier, Ferdinand Berthoud, Breguet makes one as well. So there's a few of them out there, but I feel this is still without question the greatest execution of both a chain and fusee and a tourbillon in a wristwatch ever made, particularly due to the size. Because of the complication, it's very difficult to fit that complication within a smaller kind of case. And so a lot of the time what you get is these kind of 40, 42 millimeter wristwatches, which wear really big on wrist. This is actually just in 38 millimeters, which I feel is just a perfect size for something that is kind of a contemporary dress piece. And considering this is a wristwatch designed in 1994, it still has a very contemporary and modern design to it. Again, another wristwatch that I've never seen for sale. I know a collected man had one. I don't know what it sold for, but if I had to estimate, again, this is a watch that probably will sell somewhere in the range of 500,000, and I would say on the upward scale, 750,000, if you're, again, even able to find one from a private seller, like a collected man, or for example, at an auction house available for sale. So guys, this is my top 5 Grail watch list. Let me know what you think down in the comments below of my 5 Grail watches that I would personally love to own. And there's no doubt about it, I think that this list really kind of shows off my taste and style in watches, which is just kind of classical watchmaking brought to the 21st century. Let me know, of course, down in the comments your top 5 Grails that you would love to have one day in your collection. I would love to get your feedback. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate if you liked the video. Subscribe for more videos like this in the future. My name is Marco for the Burdeen's Jewelry YouTube channel, and I would really appreciate it if I see you in the next one.